Hey out there, this is Friday, November 2nd, 2018. And it's right now about 9 minutes before 9 in the morning here in Northern California. I'm going to do the usual, get into a lot of different stuff. I kind of wanted the theme to be where we're at this point in history, where I believe that we as a race, as a species, not only as Americans, but where we're at in history and even Bible prophecy. I believe it's all tied into understanding the precipice I believe that we're at as a species. And it's very good news and it's very rough, tough news because we're just facing the storm now. And a lot of people seem to have a lot of faith in the establishment, and this is where I would dissuade people from turning for their faith. Because the status quo, to me, is the establishment. And I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, a liberal, or a conservative, a socialist, or a capitalist. If you're honest, intellectually honest, then you will have to agree that the trajectory we've been on for a very, very long time, and a benchmark in history, in my mind, is 1963. And if you use the allegory of the frog being boiled in the pot of water, from the time you drop it into the water, and I believe that time for us as Americans, and by extension the rest of the world, because we're the trendsetter. Everybody knows that the rest of the world looks to America for an example, what to follow, how to have liberty, primarily freedom, because they know our values. They have history in their schools too around the world, and they know the principles and precepts that America stands for, and they like them a lot. And by extension, they all become Americans. And so you understand how America is most complicit and culpable in what's going on all around the world, because we are the leader of the free world, as they say. And what reinforces that evidentiary-wise is the fact that we have the world reserve currency, these Federal Reserve notes. A dollar is kind of a generic term for you can use dollar for many different currencies, but we have Federal Reserve note dollars. And so we are affecting things all around the world, and we've been doing it in a very bad way for a very long time. So they plunked us in the water in 1963, and Americans were discombobulated. We didn't know what the hell was going to happen. Nothing seemed to be happening too fast. Again, start the heat really slow, so it lulls the frog into a false sense of safety, right? That, hey, this just feels good. Maybe they just love me and they're giving me a warm bath, right? So this went on for a long time, slowly turning up the heat. And finally, 10 years later, approximately, with the Bretton Woods, Nixon as president, getting off the gold standard, okay, this was another jump. But the big jump, of course, was getting in the water in the first place. That was the hard part, okay, because they had to capture the frog, and that frog was captured by the assassination of JFK, and that was the plunking in the water. That was that was the riskiest business part for these people, is that, because some of them, he stood, hey, I'm going to turn on you, or, because there had to be people working together. It doesn't take but a handful of black hats. And some of these black hats could have thought they were doing the right thing. I mean, I hear Steve Pachenik, and I think he's a white hat. I don't know, though. But, he's a psychiatrist, and he said, well, JFK was psychotic, and I don't know. Is this a way to assuage his conscience? I don't know how old he was at the assassination of JFK. I know I was 5, but he's probably in his 70s, I guess, now. And I guess it's possible he was a young man and knew something. I don't know. But some of these black hats, see, they're deluded, and they think that they're white hats by doing these heinous acts. I mean, can you imagine that's the level of boldness is biblical. And I can't, there's no way I can reach higher than to say that it's biblical proportions. This kind of goings on in America, the most powerful nation on earth, the leader of the free world. Okay. So understand what a big deal that was. So some of these people stuck their necks out because they knew the possibility that a white hat was going to catch them, or that one of the co-conspirators would turn on them and get them busted. You understand? So it was a big deal. So you get assassinations going on afterwards that law enforcement may not be able to tie into. You understand? These people are pretty shrewd, pretty evil, pretty astute at hiding their steps. They know. Okay, they know the score. They know how to deal with things. Okay, like mafia level kind of goings on. So they just bury the evidence. That's it. It's the same with 9/11. I mean, if you had a bunch of guys that just thought, well, we're rigging the building for exploding, and they told us to keep it on the down low, so that's what my boss told me, and so that's what I'm going to do. And they had to do it at night, and they're working inside the walls of the building. Likely, and this probably went on for months, if not years, to rig a 110-story building with explosives to be brought down. That's a big deal. So that's why I say the assassination of JFK, the likelihood it was just a lone gunman, is, cui bono. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, cui bono is the Federal Reserve. Okay, the money printing operators class. Okay, these are the people that really benefited because JFK, if you read your history, you'll understand I'm not making anything up. He was in the process of eliminating the Federal Reserve Bank. He had gone so far as to already, I remember the silver notes. So JFK was serious. He meant business. He was already circulating a new currency. So it's just insanity that we've accepted this. And the only explanation I have is that we were mesmerized and put into a spell, a stupor by television. I don't know how else. It's just not in America, the DNA of the typical American. Okay, the spirit of the American is independence at all costs. Okay, live free or die. That's the mentality of a good, upright American. That's just trying to follow the constitutional law and understands that only God supersedes that constitutional law, and God is the grantor of our freedoms, and that we cannot let evil people rule our lives. Otherwise, we're going to have just misery heaped upon misery is what we've had, a trajectory to death and destruction. Okay, that's it. Whether Democrats are in office or Republicans or liberals or conservatives, whether it's socialists or capitalists, everybody has to agree the trajectory has been the same. We've been boiled. Okay, the good news is that we've reached a rapid feverish boil at this point, and that the levee is going to break. It's got to break. It's got to give. The people aren't going to take it anymore. We are not of a third world nation mentality. Okay, we understand justice for the people that are providing essential needs imperative to the welfare of society. We know that those are blue-collar workers, okay, the working class people that are the biggest contributors. They pay literally with their blood, sweat, and tears, and they're being cheated, they're being duped, they're being ripped off, thieved from, financially raped, economically raped. Their wealth has been stolen from under their noses. Okay, and so many people have gone along with it. Look, listen, a critical mass. All they need to keep is a critical mass of people that feel secure, well-heeled, they have financial freedom, and they've done that very successfully with the stock market, all these 401ks, so people are vested in the system, the status quo, the establishment, and so they don't want to rock the boat, right? They have future dreams and hopes that they're going to get rich eventually, and so they want it to work. They want it to succeed. And I'm 60 now. I've got 55 years of history at least watching the frogs, the American people, by extension the rest of the world, being boiled. And I've had it. I'm wearied by it. And I don't have any faith in the system. And, I hear Alex Jones and all this importance of voting. And, hey, I believe in voting too, but I'm detached. I put it in God's hands because at the end of the day, that's the only one that I have any faith in is God's ability to affect change in this country. I'm sick and tired of people acting, and they're so deluded. They actually believe that we're going to fix this politically, when we know it's just been like a tennis match. Okay, the ball's in this guy's court. This philosophy, this credo, the liberals and the socialists and the Democrats on this side of the court. So now they've got the ball. And so for 4 or 8 years, we got to watch their doing, whatever they think is right. But really, you understand, these people don't give a crap about the masses. Their masters are the grand puppeteers, the money masters who signs their paychecks. In other words, they know which side their bread is buttered on. So they're not loyal to the American people, who are supposed to be the only rightful master of these people. They're servants. These politicos are supposed to be servants to the people. They're not. So you understand this thing, and then it gets in the other guy's court. There's conservatives, the Republicans, these professed conservatives, because fiscally they're not. I'm telling you, these people are evil, man. I mean, I'm telling you, they're evil. And the reason I'm not condemning them. I'm just saying their fruits are rotten. That's it. They give themselves raises. Have you ever noticed Congress voting themselves raises? They don't care what they do in terms of debasing your currency through raising your cost of living tax. That's what they do. I mean, they get people to vote. What's so great about a democracy? If 51% of the people say, yeah, I benefit from higher taxes, so I'm going to vote to raise the taxes on everybody. Do you understand? Because they know that in the scheme of things, once the math is done, that it works to their favor. Do you understand? That they get more money. So even though they raise everybody's taxes, they got to pay those, like a gas tax. They got to pay the tax. They don't care. They insulate themselves. They give themselves raises. Do you understand how this works? And they get us to pay more. They have to pay more, so they're in the same boat. I'm willing to pay to fix the roads or this or that or the next thing, right? Health care costs and all this, right? I'm willing to pay more. What's wrong with you? Are you mean? You're not compassionate? You don't want your taxes to go up to foot this bill and that? You don't want the roads fixed? It's your fault that there's unsafe infrastructure because you're not willing to pay more. But like I pointed out, it's the difference between pricking somebody with a little tiny pin, okay, or jamming a spike in their arm. You understand what they're doing to the masses? So, I mean, you got to understand this business of critical mass. And yes, in a democracy, true, it'd be at least a 51% critical mass they had to have. But when it comes down to the policies that are affecting all of us on the local level, when you see all the homelessness, all the problems, all the angry homeowners that are pissed off about now the homeless, they're allowed by law, constitutional law now. There's been a sea change there recently with Trump in office. And now, the rubber's meeting the road, okay? And people are finding out, hey, we're going to have to address this problem. If we don't like homelessness, we're all in this boat together, and we got to face it. Okay, I hear Alex Jones has a Benjamin, what's his name? I can't remember. Owen Benjamin, a comedian, on the show, and he talks about how people, maybe he's just making fun about how people use this term loosely, we, and what it's doing, it's assumption that it's us, and hey, well, it is we. I mean, is the human race not a we? What does the Constitution say? It's a we. We're all affected, whether you know it or not, by osmosis. And just hiding people away somewhere and telling them I don't want you to exist, so it's persecution. You can't tell people they don't have a right to exist. Remember, if these people were criminals, if they decided, screw it, man, this life is hard. It's a lot safer and more comfortable in jail. 3 hots and a cot, medical care, education, dental, free rent, free everything. Right? And that's going to cost the taxpayers $50,000 a year. So any of you fiscal conservatives that, don't understand that you're not fiscally conservative if you don't believe in what you might label as liberal policies, okay, like a basic income to make sure everybody's out there can afford to pay their basic human needs to survive without being all freaked out. Okay, and just keep raising the bar and make survival harder and harder and harder through currency debasement. How? Through cost of living tax increase. That's it. They make your money worth less and less and less. So currency debasement is currency deworthment. You understand? And it happens through cost of living inflation. A tax, a very real tax. It's not even hidden. Some people call it a hidden tax, but it's very real. If it's stuff you've got to pay for, which is very few things: housing costs, food costs, energy costs, clean water costs. Okay, very small amount of things to calculate there. Okay, it's not difficult to do. But if you can at least meet those needs so people aren't freaked out and the system still works, and what happens is a very positive thing happens. Not only do your taxes go down, so it's fiscally conservative, but you're going to see traffic on the freeways plummet